have sharply escalated following a new wave of missile and drone strikes attributed to Iran, raising fears of a broader regional conflict that could disrupt global energy routes and draw in multiple powers. According to regional officials, the latest developments began when Iran launched missiles and drones targeting the United Arab Emirates, marking what Gulf leaders describe as the first such attack since a fragile ceasefire had taken hold. The strikes coincided with a newly announced US maritime initiative in the Strait of Hormuz, intensifying suspicions that the confrontation is entering a more dangerous phase. At the center of the unfolding crisis is Mohammed bin Salman, the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia, who is said to be deeply alarmed by the developments. Saudi officials fear that Iran's actions against the UAE could soon extend toward Saudi territory, particularly its critical oil infrastructure. The situation is further complicated by the involvement of Donald Trump, whose administration has launched a controversial maritime initiative aimed at restoring safe passage for commercial shipping through the Strait of Hormuz. The move, intended to stabilize global trade routes, appears instead to have triggered a forceful reaction from Tehran. On the very first day of the US operation, Iranian missiles and drones struck targets in the UAE, including areas near Fujairah, a key oil hub. Emirati defense officials reported that their air defenses intercepted multiple incoming threats, though some managed to reach their targets, causing fires and injuries. One of the most serious incidents involved a drone strike on an oil facility which ignited a fire and injured several workers. Additional reports indicated that cargo vessels operating off the UAE coast were also affected, suggesting a coordinated attack aimed at both land and maritime infrastructure. Iran has openly linked its actions to what it describes as American adventurism in TB. Key region officials in Tehran argue that the US effort to guide ships through the Strait of Hormuz amounts to interference and provocation. Regional analysts warn that such tit-for-tat actions could quickly spiral into a larger conflict, especially given the strategic portion of the world's oil supply passes Saudi Arabia responded swiftly. In a formal statement, Riyadh condemned the attacks and warned that they pose a serious threat to regional stability. The Crown Prince held a call with Mohammed bin Zayed Al Nahyan, reaffirming Saudi Arabia's support for the UAE. A key portion of the Saudi response was delivered in strong terms. He said, "The Ministry of Foreign Affairs expresses the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia's condemnation and strongest denunciation of the Iranian targeting via missiles and drones of civilian and economic facilities in the United Arab Emirates." He continued, His Royal Highness Crown Prince conducted a phone call with the President of the United Arab Emirates, during which he expressed the Kingdom's condemnation and strong denunciation of the unjustified Iranian attacks, and affirmed the Kingdom's stand alongside the UAE in defending its security and stability. Meanwhile, Iran has issued stark warnings to regional actors. Iranian military sources suggested that any perceived alignment between the UAE and Israel could trigger further retaliation, which an Iranian source issued a particularly severe warning. He said if the UAE takes any unwise action, all its interests will become targets for Iran and no part of Emirati facilities will be safe. The statement went further, underscoring the vulnerability of the UAE's infrastructure and hinting at a willingness to escalate significantly if provoked. The rhetoric reflects a broader pattern of rising hostility, with Iran framing its actions as defensive responses to foreign interference, while Gulf states interpret them as aggressive violation of sovereignty. The United Arab Emirates has strongly condemned the attacks, describing them as unacceptable and signaling that it is prepared to respond if necessary. Officials in Abu Dhabi have also accused Iran of targeting commercial shipping, including an oil tanker reportedly linked to the national energy company. In response, the UAE has called for the full reopening of the Strait of Hormuz and accused Iranian forces of engaging in coercive maritime tactics. The situation has drawn reactions from across the international community. Ursula von der Leyen publicly condemned the attacks and urged restraint, emphasizing the need to avoid further escalation. At the same time, the Gulf Cooperation Council issued a collective statement condemning Iran's actions and warning that they threaten regional peace and stability. A senior Gulf official expressed the bloc's position in unequivocal terms. He said strikes represent a flagrant violation of the sovereignty of a member state. Hitting the United Arab Emirates is unacceptable and condemned by all standards. He added, "We call on the international community to assume its responsibilities to stop these repeated Iranian attacks." Despite the mounting tensions, the United States has attempted to frame its maritime initiative as a stabilizing effort. President Trump described the operation, referred to as Project Freedom, as a humanitarian mission aimed at assisting commercial vessels. He said, "For the good of Iran, the Middle East, and the United States, we have told these countries that we will guide their ships safely out of these restricted waterways." He further noted, "Many of these ships are running low on food and everything else necessary for large-scale crews to stay on board in a healthy and sanitary manner. However, subsequent clarifications from U.S. officials suggested that the operation would not involve direct naval escorts, but rather coordination and guidance to help ships avoid high-risk zones." The U.S. military, under United States Central Command, has confirmed that it will support the initiative through surveillance, intelligence, and logistical assistance. The scale of the operation is substantial, involving thousands of personnel and a wide array of aircraft and unmanned systems. Military officials emphasized the strategic importance of the mission, noting that the Strait of Hormuz remains a critical artery for global energy supplies. As tensions continue to rise, regional alliances appear to be hardening. Gulf states, increasingly aligned in their opposition to Iran, are coordinating their responses more closely. At the same time, warnings from Tehran suggest that any escalation could trigger a broader confrontation involving multiple actors. The coming days are likely to be critical in determining whether the situation stabilizes or spirals further. With vital routes at stake and military forces on high alert, the Gulf region once again finds itself at the epicenter of global geopolitical risk. For now, the fragile balance between deterrence and escalation hangs in the balance, with each move closely watched by both regional powers and the international community.